My friends, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and write a comment, and we begin. Part 1. The Family Photograph Expanded. The afternoon sun, filtered through the sheer curtains of my living room window, illuminated the dust motes dancing in the air around the framed photograph on my mantelpiece. It was a picture that, for years, had been a source of comfort, a tangible representation of a simpler, happier time. Now, it felt like a cruel taunt, a mocking reminder of everything I had lost. I picked up the frame, the cool glass a stark contrast to the heat simmering within me. The image was clear, vibrant, almost painfully alive. It was a snapshot from my 25th birthday party, a sun-drenched celebration held in the familiar, sprawling backyard of our parents' house in suburban Connecticut. The scene was idyllic, balloons bobbing in the gentle breeze, fairy lights twinkling in the trees, laughter echoing across the manicured lawn. There I was, younger, brighter, my face flushed with joy, my eyes sparkling with carefree optimism. My arm was looped through Liam's, my boyfriend of 4 years, my best friend, the man I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. He was gazing at me with that goofy head-over-heels look that I had always adored, the look that made my stomach flip and my heart swell with a sense of belonging. His smile was genuine, his eyes crinkling at the corners. In that moment, in that picture, everything felt perfect. But standing beside us, a little too close for comfort, was my sister, Chloe. She was stunning as always. Tall, blonde, with a smile that could charm the birds from the trees. But in this particular photograph, her smile was just a touch too bright, her posture a little too stiff, her eyes too focused on Liam. They weren't flirtatious exactly, but there was a possessiveness in her gaze, a silent claim that made my skin crawl, even now years later. At the time, I dismissed it. Chloe had always been a bit of a flirt, a social butterfly drawn to attention and admiration. She thrived on being the center of attention, the life of the party. Liam, undeniably charming, with his easy smile and quick wit, was the kind of guy every girl crushed on, even my own sister. I chalked it up to harmless sibling rivalry, a minor irritation in an otherwise perfect day. We had been planning our future, Liam and I, for months. We had spent hours poring over wedding magazines, debating color schemes and floral arrangements. We had visited quaint New England towns, searching for the perfect location for our cozy little house, a place where we could raise our future children and grow old together. We had even started researching golden retriever breeders, convinced that a furry companion would complete our idyllic suburban tableau. We were solid a team. We had weathered storms together, supported each other through career setbacks and family dramas. We were the envy of our friends, the couple everyone aspired to be. Or so I thought. 6 months later, my world imploded. The carefully constructed facade of our perfect relationship shattered into a million irreparable pieces. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, an unremarkable day that would forever be etched in my memory. Liam called me at work, his voice tight and strained, lacking its usual warmth and playfulness. He said he needed to talk, that it was important. My heart fluttered with anticipation. I had been secretly hoping he would propose on my birthday, but he had played it cool, insisting that he wanted to wait for the right moment. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment I had been waiting for. I met him at our usual coffee shop, a cozy little place with mismatched furniture and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I arrived early, jittery with excitement, picturing the proposal, the ring, the tears of joy. Instead, he dropped a bomb, a devastating confession that ripped the rug out from under my feet. He was leaving me. He was breaking up with me. Not for another woman, not because he had fallen out of love. He was leaving me for Chloe. The world went blurry, the sounds of the cafe fading into a distant hum. I remember snippets of the conversation, his stammered apologies, his pathetic justifications, his hollow promises to remain friends. Chloe's name, repeated like a curse, each syllable a stab wound to my heart. He claimed they hadn't planned it, that it had just happened, a sudden, undeniable connection that neither of them could resist. I walked out of that coffee shop numb, a hollow shell of my former self. The picture of our perfect future dissolved into a million shattered pieces, scattered like dust in the wind. The ring I had secretly dreamed of never materialized. The house in the suburbs remained a distant fantasy. The golden retriever puppy would never be ours. The worst part, the part that twisted the knife even deeper, was my parents' reaction. Instead of offering me comfort and support, they sided with Chloe. "Chloe and Liam are in love, darling," my mother had said, her voice annoyingly reasonable, as if I was overreacting to a minor inconvenience. "You need to be the bigger person. Forgive them. It's what's best for the family. Forgive them." They had stolen my life, my happiness, my future. They had betrayed me in the most profound and unforgivable way imaginable. And yet, my parents expected me to simply brush it off, to pretend that everything was okay, to sacrifice my own happiness for the sake of maintaining a false sense of family harmony. I stared at the photograph, my anger simmering just below the surface. The smiling faces, the idyllic scene, the promise of a perfect future. It was all a lie. And in that moment, I vowed to never forgive them, to never forget the pain they had inflicted upon me. The framed photograph, once a symbol of love and happiness, had become a symbol of betrayal and deceit. It was a reminder of the woman who had stolen my life and the man who had let her. And I would never let them forget it either. Part 2. The wedding invitation expanded. The 2 years following Liam's confession and my parents' infuriatingly placid response had been a period of intense self-reflection, forced reinvention, and a slow, arduous climb back to normalcy. I had packed my bags, said a terse goodbye to my parents, avoiding Chloe and Liam at all costs, and moved halfway across the country to Seattle. I needed space, distance, a clean break from the toxic environment that had suffocated me. I threw myself into my career, working long hours, immersing myself in the complex world of coding and algorithms. The logical, structured nature of software engineering offered a welcome respite from the messy, unpredictable emotions that had plagued me for so long. I found solace in the challenge, in the feeling of accomplishment that came with solving complex problems and building elegant solutions. I even started dating again, cautiously dipping my toes back into the dating pool after years of committed monogamy. I met some nice guys, intelligent and kind, but no one quite measured up to the image of Liam that still lingered in my heart, the ghost of a love that could have been. I found myself constantly comparing them, searching for the same spark, the same connection, the same easy familiarity that I had shared with Liam. But it was no use. He had set the bar too high, and no one seemed to be able to clear it. Then, one crisp autumn morning, the past came crashing back into my present with brutal force. The mail arrived, a stack of bills and junk mail, indistinguishable from any other day. But nestled among the mundane correspondence was something that made my heart stop, a thick, creamy envelope, addressed to me in elegant, flowing calligraphy. I knew what it was before I even opened it. My hands trembled as I carefully tore open the seal, my heart pounding in my chest. Inside, on heavy, embossed paper, was the wedding invitation. "Chloe and Liam request the honor of your presence at their marriage." The words shimmered in the sunlight, mocking me with their formality, their audacity. Rage, cold and sharp, coursed through me, a familiar sensation that I had thought I had successfully suppressed. How dare they? How dare they flaunt their happiness in my face, as if nothing had happened, as if they hadn't shattered my life into a million pieces. How dare they expect me to celebrate their union, a union built on betrayal and deceit. I wanted to tear the invitation into shreds, to burn it to ashes, to scream at the top of my lungs. I wanted to pack my bags and disappear again, to run as far away from them as possible. But then, a strange calm settled over me, a sense of detached curiosity that surprised even me. An invitation was an invitation. A formal request, a carefully crafted message. And in this case, it was also an opportunity. An opportunity to observe, to analyze, to dissect the carefully constructed facade of their happiness. A chance to see them together, to witness their dynamic, to understand what had possessed Liam, what had driven him to betray me so completely. and most importantly, a chance to know if they were truly happy, or if their perfect facade was just a carefully constructed lie, a desperate attempt to convince themselves and the world that they had made the right choice. My parents were, of course, thrilled that I was even considering attending the wedding. "It would mean so much to Chloe," my mother gushed during one of our painfully infrequent phone calls. "It would show her that you've truly forgiven them, that you've moved on. It would bring the family back together." The pressure was immense, a constant barrage of guilt trips and thinly veiled manipulations. They couldn't understand that attending the wedding wasn't about forgiveness. It was about understanding. It was about closure. It was about seeing for myself what had become of the man I had once loved and the sister I had once trusted. Reluctantly, I RSVP'd yes. I didn't do it for Chloe. I didn't do it for my parents. I did it for myself. I needed to see them, to observe them, to analyze them. A dark curiosity had taken root within me, a burning desire to understand the forces that had conspired to destroy my happiness. I wasn't going to the wedding to celebrate their love. I was going to the wedding to satisfy my own need for answers, to see for myself if their happiness was real or a carefully constructed illusion. I was going to the wedding to put the ghost of Liam to rest, once and for all. And if along the way I happened to disrupt their carefully orchestrated celebration, well, that would just be an added bonus. Part 3. The reception deception expanded. The wedding was a lavish affair, an ostentatious display of wealth and social standing that reeked of my parents' desire to impress their friends and, undoubtedly, Chloe's insatiable need for attention. The ceremony itself was a blur of forced smiles, saccharine vows, and expertly staged photo opportunities. I sat in the back row, a silent observer, my heart a cold, unyielding stone in my chest. The reception was held at a sprawling country club, its manicured grounds stretching as far as the eye could see. A cascading floral arrangement, a riot of white roses and lilies, dominated the entrance, its fragrant aroma almost cloying. Inside, a string quartet played classical melodies, their music a soothing counterpoint to the undercurrent of tension that permeated the air. Everything was perfect, meticulously planned, and flawlessly executed. But beneath the surface, I sensed a subtle unease, a feeling that something was amiss. Chloe, radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than my annual salary, floated through the crowd like a fairy tale princess, her face beaming with carefully constructed joy. Liam, handsome in his impeccably tailored tuxedo, looked uncomfortable. His smile seemed forced, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. I forced a smile as I congratulated them, my voice tight and strained. "Congratulations, Chloe," I said, offering her a perfunctory hug. "You look beautiful." Chloe hugged me tightly, her grip almost unnervingly strong, her voice saccharine sweet. "Thank you for being here, Ava," she whispered in my ear. "It means the world to me." Liam just nodded, avoiding my gaze, his face pale and drawn. He mumbled a half-hearted, "Thanks for coming," before quickly turning away, as if afraid to meet my eyes. The reception was a carefully orchestrated performance, a charade designed to convince everyone that Chloe and Liam were blissfully happy, that their love was strong and unwavering. My parents, of course, were playing their roles to perfection, beaming with pride, basking in the reflected glory of their daughter's perfect wedding. The guests, a collection of wealthy socialites and family friends, gushed about their love, their beauty, their perfect union. But I saw the cracks in the facade. I saw the way Liam's eyes darted around the room, searching for something he couldn't find. I saw the way Chloe clung to him possessively, her grip tightening whenever another woman approached him, as if afraid he might slip away. I saw the forced laughter, the too bright smiles, the subtle signs of strain and tension that betrayed the lie they were trying so hard to maintain. Then, across the crowded room, I saw him. A man standing near the bar, observing the scene with a sardonic smile that mirrored my own. He was tall, with dark hair that fell artfully across his forehead and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me, to recognize the pain and the resentment that I had tried so hard to conceal. He was an outsider, an observer, just like me. He caught my gaze and raised his glass in a silent toast, a knowing acknowledgement of the charade that was unfolding before us. Intrigue sparked within me, a flicker of curiosity that cut through the numbness that had enveloped me for so long. Who was this man? And why did he seem so annoying? Why did he seem to understand the hidden truths beneath the surface of this perfect wedding? I found myself drawn to him, compelled to learn more about him, to understand his perspective on this surreal and unsettling event. I knew I shouldn't, that it was dangerous to engage with a stranger in this environment, but the pull was too strong to resist. He was a beacon of honesty in a sea of deception, a kindred spirit in a room full of strangers. Part 4. The mysterious stranger expanded. Later in the evening, as the reception dragged on and the air grew thick with champagne and forced merriment, I found a plausible excuse to slip away from my family's watchful eyes and make my way towards the man by the bar. The string quartet had been replaced by a DJ, who was spinning a mix of upbeat pop songs that did little to alleviate the underlying tension in the room. He was even more intriguing up close. His eyes held a depth of intelligence and a hint of world weariness that belied his relatively young age. He was impeccably dressed in a dark suit, but there was a looseness to his posture, a subtle air of defiance that suggested he didn't quite belong in this rarefied atmosphere. I approached him hesitantly, unsure of what to say. "Excuse me," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. "I noticed you earlier." He turned to face me, his lips curving into a wry smile. "And I noticed you," he said, his voice a low, smooth baritone that sent a shiver down my spine. "Let me guess. You're Ava." My breath caught in my throat. "How do you know?" He shrugged, taking a sip of his drink. "Let's just say I have a knack for reading people. And Liam, well, he wears his regrets on his sleeve. He's been looking at you all night with the longing of a lost puppy." He introduced himself as Ethan, a friend of the family, although I'd never seen him before, and my parents certainly hadn't mentioned him. He was deliberately vague about his connection to Chloe and Liam, but I sensed that he knew them far better than he let on. We struck up a conversation easily, drawn together by our shared outsider status and our mutual disdain for the wedding spectacle. Ethan was witty, intelligent, and refreshingly cynical about the entire affair. He dissected the carefully constructed performances of the guests with surgical precision, exposing their insecurities and their hidden agendas with a sharp and insightful humor. As the evening wore on, Ethan began to tell me things about Liam and Chloe's relationship that chilled me to the bone. He painted a picture of a marriage built on a foundation of lies and insecurity, a relationship riddled with resentment and regret. Chloe, he said, was intensely jealous and controlling, constantly demanding Liam's attention and reassurance. She was driven by a deep-seated fear of abandonment, and she clung to Liam with a desperate possessiveness that bordered on obsession. Liam, on the other hand, was plagued by guilt and resentment, trapped in a relationship he no longer wanted. He was suffocating under Chloe's constant demands, yearning for the freedom and the genuine connection he had once shared with me. He was a prisoner of his own making, bound by the guilt of his betrayal and the fear of disappointing Chloe. "He's not happy, Ava," Ethan said, his voice low and serious. "And she knows it. That's why she's so controlling, so desperate to keep him close. She knows that if she lets go, even for a moment, he'll slip away." Suddenly, everything clicked into place. I understood why Chloe had stolen Liam, why she had been so insistent on marrying him. It wasn't out of love, it was out of spite, out of a desperate need to possess something that I had, to prove that she was better than me. And Liam, weak and easily manipulated, had allowed himself to be swept along, a pawn in Chloe's twisted game. But why was Ethan telling me all of this? What was his agenda? Why was he so willing to reveal the secrets of Chloe and Liam's marriage to a virtual stranger? What did he hope to gain? I was about to press him for answers, to demand an explanation for his sudden, when Chloe approached us, her eyes narrowed with suspicion, her smile tight and unnatural. "Liam's looking for you, Ethan," she said, her voice sharp and laced with a barely concealed warning. "He wants to talk to you about business." Ethan excused himself, offering me a knowing glance before melting back into the crowd, leaving me alone with Chloe and a burning desire for answers. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place, but I knew I was still missing something crucial, something that would explain Ethan's motivations and reveal the true depth of the deception that had consumed my life. Part 5. The Ultimate Revelation. expanded, and concluded. As Ethan melted back into the throng of wedding guests, a palpable tension descended, isolating Chloe and me in a bubble of animosity. The forced cheerfulness of the reception faded away, replaced by a raw, visceral confrontation that laid bare the years of simmering resentment between us. Chloe turned to me, her eyes blazing with a fury she could no longer contain. Her smile was gone, replaced by a mask of barely concealed venom. The designer gown, the perfect hair, the flawless makeup, all seemed like a pathetic attempt to disguise the ugly truth that lay beneath. "Stay away from my husband, Ava," she hissed, her voice low and menacing. "He's mine now. You've had your chance. Don't try to take him back." "Is he really?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm, considering the turmoil raging inside me. "Or is he just a trophy, a symbol of your victory? A way to prove that you're better than me?" Chloe's face contorted with rage, her carefully constructed composure crumbling before my eyes. "Get out of my life, Ava. You've already ruined everything. You always do." "Ruined everything?" I echoed, a strange sense of detachment washing over me. "You're the one who ruined everything, Chloe. You stole my boyfriend, you married him, and you've been living a lie ever since. You're the one who built this house of cards, and now it's all coming crashing down." She took a step towards me, her hands clenched into fists, her eyes narrowed into slits. "You don't know anything," she spat. "You have no idea what it's like to be me." Then, just as I was bracing myself for a physical confrontation, Ethan reappeared, his face grim, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and apprehension. He stepped between us, placing a protective hand on Chloe's arm. "Chloe, Liam needs to see you," he said, his voice low and urgent. "It's urgent. He wants to talk to you, alone." Chloe hesitated, her eyes darting between Ethan and me, her face a mask of confusion and suspicion. She seemed torn between her desire to lash out at me and her fear of what Liam might reveal. Finally, she glared at me one last time, her eyes filled with a hatred I had never seen before, and stalked away, following Ethan towards the quieter corners of the country club. As they disappeared into the crowd, Ethan turned back to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and anticipation. He hesitated for a moment, as if unsure whether to speak. "Liam just confessed something to Chloe," he said, his voice low and somber. "Something that will change everything. Something that she never expected." He paused, letting the suspense hang in the air, his eyes searching my face, gauging my reaction. "He confessed that he is not the one who can have children. It was Chloe. All this time, she knew she couldn't conceive, but she couldn't let Liam go." I stared at Ethan, confused, the pieces of the puzzle not quite fitting together. Why was Liam confessing this now? And why would he want Chloe to tell me? Before I could formulate a question, Ethan added, "He asked to let me tell you that he only broke up with you because Chloe threatened to tell your parents about an affair you had been keeping secret from them." My breath caught in my throat. No, this could not be real. I had been completely faithful to Liam during our whole relationship, and I was sure he had been faithful to me as well. Before I could say anything, Ethan said, "Yes, it's a lie. Everything Chloe has told Liam about you has been a lie, and he wants you to hear the truth and decide if you want to be with him or not." The affair was between Chloe and Ethan. In that moment, the final pieces of the puzzle snapped into place, revealing the full extent of Chloe's deception and the true nature of Ethan's involvement. He wasn't just a friend of the family, he was Chloe's lover, the man she had turned to for comfort and validation during her loveless marriage. And Liam, trapped in a web of lies and guilt, had finally cracked, confessing his sins and revealing Chloe's treachery. My life had been stolen, manipulated, and distorted by a woman I had loved and trusted. But in that moment, as I stood there amidst the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies, I realized I had a choice. I could succumb to bitterness and resentment, allowing her to continue to control my life, or I could embrace the truth and move on, finally free from her poisonous influence. I took a deep breath, a sense of liberation washing over me, cleansing me of the anger and resentment that had consumed me for so long. Liam was no longer the man I remembered, and Chloe was a stranger I didn't recognize. They were both trapped in a cycle of lies and self-deception, and I no longer wanted to be a part of their twisted game. "Thank you, Ethan," I said, my voice steady and resolute, "for telling me the truth. But I think I'll pass. I deserve better than both of them. I deserve a life free of lies, manipulation, and deceit." I turned and walked away from the wedding, away from the lies and the betrayal, towards a future filled with the promise of honesty, self-respect, and genuine love. The framed photograph on my mantelpiece would remain a reminder of the past, of the woman who had tried to steal my life, but it would no longer define my present. My future, I knew, was mine to create, and I was finally ready to embrace it on my own terms. As I walked away, I could hear Ethan calling my name, but knowing that my journey had just begun, I kept walking. I would find my happiness elsewhere,